The movie opens with the bustling sounds of Seoul's nightlife. The atmosphere is surrounded by the noise of city traffic and ordinary citizens laughing a night away. Suddenly, a scream is heard. A woman escapes being physically assaulted by a group of men and pleads for one of the cars to help her. The driver is Hae-won, who quickly pulls up her windows and continues her drive. Hae-won is a loan officer in a bank. Hae-won is a stern, tense woman. Her status and hyper-competitive mentality make her apathetic to other people. At the bank, she is turning down an old woman who she evidently told earlier that she would give a loan to. The old woman is upset and Hae-won could care less. She gets a call on her phone and she answers it angrily, saying, "Stop calling me." The call later turns out to be from the police. Hae-won is called into the police station as a witness to the crime committed a few days earlier by some thugs. The police want Hae-won to pick out the two thugs in a lineup, but she refuses to cooperate as she finds the task tedious since it doesn't affect her. On her way out, the police tell her to reach out if she remembers anything, and she leaves the station. Shortly after, Hae-won is accosted in the car park by a couple of the gang members and returns, quite shaken, to work. When she comes back to the bank, she is accidentally locked in a toilet cubicle by the janitor. She manages to catch a glimpse of the sandals the person inside the bathroom was wearing, and when she finally gets out, she slaps a colleague in the face, thinking that she had trapped her in the stall because of the sandals, only to be proven wrong when Hae-won realizes that the janitor is also wearing the same pair. After that, her boss calls her into his office and instructs her to take a vacation. When she gets home, she receives a bundle of letters from the superintendent. She dumps them into the trash bin after just looking at the address. She knows where the letter is from, but doesn't reply or read it to break the enforced chains of passivity. Afterward, she drinks several tins of Guinness. Wanting an escape from the city, she finally decides to visit her old childhood home, an island called Mudo. She is returning after 15 years to meet the letter writer Kim Boknam, a childhood friend of Hae-won. On the island, Hae-won is warmly welcomed by her childhood friend, Boknam. Mudo Island is a socially isolated place, and only a few people live there. Hae-won's grandfather used to live there too. Boknam escorts Hae-won to the house she has cleaned for her. Boknam takes Hae-won on a walk down memory lane, touching a wooden frame etched with aged scrawlings of their names from childhood, and bathing each other in a pond. Boknam welcomes Hae-won with warm hospitality, crafting meals, hand-washing her clothes, and sneaking a pillow underneath her head after an exhausting boat ride to the island. Life on the undeveloped island is hard, and Boknam is treated as little more than a slave by her abusive husband Man-jong, his lustful brother Chul-jong, and their ruthless aunt. The rest of the tiny island's population consists of a bozo-chewing old man and 3 old farming women. Boknam's life revolves around doing manual labor each day, which involves cleaning the island as well as planning, digging potatoes, and procuring honey from live bees. While Boknam's kindness is evident, she is relentlessly abused by nearly every inhabitant of this island. The remoteness of Mudo is reflected in its oppressiveness and outdated gender expectations of its residents. Every day, Boknam is abused by her husband and brother-in-law and berated by the island women for failing to be a dutiful and loyal wife to her husband. Boknam's one respite is her center of the world, her elementary school-aged daughter, Yeon-hee. One day, she dreams of escaping to Seoul to garner opportunities for Yeon-hee, just as she believes Hae-won has. One night, while Boknam's husband and daughter are out to go fishing, her brother-in-law, Chul-jong, comes in her room and essays her. Later, Man-jong and Yeon-hee return home with an empty basket, and as usual, Boknam acts like nothing happened. Soon after, Man-jong starts to beat Boknam when she makes a bad remark about his family, all the while their daughter is outside eating fruit, oblivious to what's going on. The next day, after cooking her a meal, Boknam takes Hae-won to a pond where she does her laundry and helps Hae-won bathe. Afterward, Hae-won is wandering around the island on her own when Chul-jong suddenly approaches her. She then subtly picks up a broken glass as he starts to get closer, but leaves soon after Yeon-hee comes to interrupt them. After that, Hae-won and Yeon-hee spend the day together playing games. Meanwhile, Man-jong openly sees an escort from Seoul, while Boknam is sitting outside aggressively eating, despite hearing the sounds of her husband and the escort. And the other women on the island do their best to keep his daughter, Yeon-hee, in the dark. When 𝐂𝐤 and 𝐂𝐤 come back from their playdate, Boknam immediately instructs them to leave, and that's when 𝐂𝐤 realizes the type of life Boknam is in. Sometime later, the prostitute comes out and does her makeup outside, which after 𝐂𝐤 sees, gets upset and smacks her head before running into the house. The prostitute then apologizes to Boknam, saying that she only came all the way to the island because 𝐂𝐤 paid triple the price to her boss. She then gives her sunscreen, remarking on her tanned skin. The prostitute is conflicted as to how Boknam is still living with her husband despite the things he does to her, and claims she would have run away by now. But Boknam answers angrily that she already tried, and he would kill her if she plans to run away again. Still, the prostitute offers her an opportunity to run away to Seoul together and start a new life before leaving. While hanging out with 𝐂𝐤, 𝐂𝐤 talks about a rather twisted view of womanhood, saying that she wants big breasts so that men will like her. She later applies makeup to her face given to her by none other than 𝐂𝐤, and also doesn't mind when he gives her a hug while inappropriately touching her on the backside. Boknam gets the impression that 𝐂𝐤 is being inappropriate with their daughter and goes over to her friend 𝐂𝐤. Viewing 𝐂𝐤 as not only a loyal friend but a savior, Boknam pleads for her friend's assistance to leave the island. Boknam begs 𝐂𝐤 to help her and her daughter, telling her that her husband is having sex with her child. However, 𝐂𝐤 dismisses the plea, accusing her of lying, and therefore she refuses to help her. The next morning, 𝐂𝐤 approaches 𝐂𝐤 and subtly asks her about her father, but before she can get anything out of 𝐂𝐤, the ruthless aunt shows up and takes 𝐂𝐤 away, while also reminding 𝐂𝐤 that her vacation is over. Due to the daily abuse she suffers and the increasing sexualization of her daughter, Boknam decides once again to flee the island and take the bus to the mainland. She takes money from her husband while he's asleep and calls the prostitute, reminding her of the offer to run away to Seoul. Early in the morning, Boknam wakes her daughter up and they quietly head down to the boat where the prostitute is waiting for them. However, her attempt to leave Mudo is once again thwarted because the boat captain is on friendly terms with her husband. Lashing out at 𝐂𝐤, Boknam finds herself on the wrong end of a beating. Boknam, while crying, reveals that 𝐂𝐤 is not 𝐂𝐤's daughter, as Boknam was SA'd by many local men. As 𝐂𝐤 continues to beat Boknam, 𝐂𝐤 intervenes, biting his leg, which after 𝐂𝐤 throws her out of the way, causing 𝐂𝐤 to bash her head on a rock and die. When a policeman from Seoul visits, Boknam is unable to tell the true story because she is contradicted at every turn by 𝐂𝐤 and the other women on the island. Seemingly intimidated by this wall of silence, 𝐂𝐤 refuses to testify against him, and Boknam is, once again, isolated within the community. As the policeman leaves the island, the family award him with gifts and money to end the investigation. Meanwhile, 𝐂𝐤 is also supposed to leave at that time, but the boat leaves before she could arrive, leaving her dreadful for what is to come. Later, 𝐂𝐤 provides 𝐂𝐤 with a meal. Thinking it's from Boknam, she tells him to thank her for it, and he simply smiles before leaving. At night, 𝐂𝐤 returns to 𝐂𝐤's room, finding her to be completely blacked out. It seems that he put something in the meal to make her lie unconscious. As he attempts to SA her, Boknam suddenly shows up holding a burning stick, forcing him to leave the room. In a flashback, 𝐂𝐤 was teaching Boknam how to play a tune on her flute when 4 local boys began harassing them. 𝐂𝐤 fled and witnessed the boys assaulting the unconscious Boknam. Back to the present, the time comes to harvest the potatoes, and Boknam is the only one working from sunup, while the other women are sitting around filling their stomachs. At that time, the brothers have left the island to go into town, leaving just the women and the old man on the island. As the sun begins to set, Boknam stares into it until it goes away. She then runs over to where the women and the old man are sitting and drinks some water from a bottle. Afterward, Boknam comments to the group that she stared at the sun for long and it spoke to her. Before she can finish her sentence, the women burst into laughter, and that's when she snaps, picks up a sickle, and begins killing them one by one, except for the old man. Before killing the 3rd woman, she finishes her earlier sentence, stating that the sun said, if she holds back, she'll get sick. After murdering 3 old women, she looks for her mother-in-law, but fails to find her as the night falls. In the morning, 𝐂𝐤 wakes, and soon after encounters the mother-in-law, who is shaken by what she witnessed and unable to speak. Moments later, Boknam finds them and knocks 𝐂𝐤 unconscious. She chases her mother-in-law to the cliff, but the mother-in-law swings the sickle blade out of the handle due to her poor eyesight. The mother-in-law sees 𝐂𝐤 and his brother returning by boat and plans to swim to the boat for help. She miscalculates the distance to the water and dies falling on the rocks below. The brothers finally arrive on the island, thinking everything is fine, and 𝐂𝐤 invites the boat captain for a drink. Boknam soon decapitates her brother-in-law while he is isolated from the group in the forest. After the men find 𝐂𝐤's head hanging from a tree, Boknam comes from behind and cuts the captain's arm before 𝐂𝐤 manages to disarm her. Shortly after, 𝐂𝐤 tries to kill Boknam, snapping 𝐂𝐤 out of her apathy. She threatens to call the police, and he says he can either kill 𝐂𝐤 or make her his new wife. Boknam seduces him by licking his knife. As 𝐂𝐤 lets down his guard, she bites his finger. They fight until she kills him with the knife. She smears his body with bean paste in mockery of his earlier remark about curing her bruises with bean paste. Terrified, 𝐂𝐤 runs toward the boat along with the wounded captain. Boknam catches up and tries to drown the captain for helping 𝐂𝐤. As 𝐂𝐤 begins to turn the boat, the captain is caught in the propeller and torn to shreds. 𝐂𝐤 escapes to Seoul. Boknam travels to Seoul wearing 𝐂𝐤's clothes and makeup, holding a luggage of hers with the childhood flute. When she gets there, Boknam realizes that 𝐂𝐤 has fallen unconscious and is in police custody. When 𝐂𝐤 wakes up in a room sometime later, she finds Boknam beside her. 𝐂𝐤 realizes she's handcuffed and quickly stands up to get help, while Boknam slowly follows her holding a sledgehammer. However, when 𝐂𝐤 gets down to the office, it's all a bloodbath as Boknam managed to kill them all. After a brief fight, 𝐂𝐤 manages to lock herself in a cell, blocking Boknam from getting to her. But Boknam gets the keys from one of the dead officers and takes out the flute from the bag as well. She hands it over to 𝐂𝐤 and tells her to play it. Just as she nervously starts to play the flute, a dying policeman shoots Boknam multiple times before she kills him with the sledgehammer. 𝐂𝐤 manages to stab Boknam in the neck with the flute, and she slowly dies in her lap. All the murdered victims have been buried or cremated by Boknam. At the end of the movie, when 𝐂𝐤 realizes the consequences of her inaction following Boknam's massacre and death, she identifies the perpetrators of the violent assault and murder we witnessed at the beginning of the film. She returns home and reads through the unopened letters sent by Boknam, asking for help. After reading through each letter, she places one on her side and stares dejectedly at the ceiling. As she lies on the floor, the image transitions to the outside of the island, now completely uninhabited. Did this story spook you out? Let us know in the comments below. For more horror movie recaps, subscribe to our channel, and we will see you in the next one. Fear awaits you.